A lot of the plants have died or weren't growing because all of a sudden it's become a shade garden because of the growth of all these trees. We're going to use a bunch of plants that will grow in the shade, a new irrigation system, a new lighting system. We're going to also try to screen a street that is real close. Tune in and we'll show you how we do it. I'm John Valentino, president of John & Bob's, here with my vice president in charge of renovations, Chip Valentino. We're also here with Pearl and Fiona, who are helping us in updating and sprucing up this existing garden. Around this pool area, nothing has been done for a lot of years. Plants had kind of petered out here and there, mainly because this xylosma had turned into big trees that was shading everything. And the shade here is really, really desirable because it's so hot. And today it's going to be about 100. So the shade is good, but then you might need to adjust your planting. And you can plant a whole new palette of plants because all of a sudden you've got conditions that are different than, say, when it was landscaped 30 years ago when we had mostly sun. Things like dogwoods will grow in Fresno. We're going to plant one right over there, a pink dogwood. Different plants like the variegated ginger, two kinds of Japanese Aurelia, some autumn ferns and a lady fern, some hydrangeas, a couple other things which I'll remember when I see them. So I already placed some privet because they want to screen that road. That gets a lot of shade, but I think it's going to get western sun when we clean up that area just on the other side of the fence. It's a little hard to decide what to plant there because I toyed with the idea of planting something shade tolerant, but I think we're going to get western sun, a lot of western sun in there. First, you need to determine what kind of exposure you have, so what kind of plants you want to pick. Once we knew we had a lot of shade, then you can develop a list of plants that will grow there and combine that. If you know the plants, you can see if it's something you'd like. If you don't know the plants, you can look them up. And now you're combining plants that you like with plants that will do well in the exposure you have. I'd say those are the two most important tips. You know, we try to do everything in masses. A garden like this that isn't formal would usually do it in odd numbers. That's what we're going to start out with, the autumn ferns around the dogwood. One of the things we don't want to do, since we have sprays, we don't want to put plants right in front of sprinklers. For instance, there's a plant right here, right in front of this sprinkler. So we're going to move this and just bring it a little bit away from the corner there. And I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. You know, a lot of times we'll have a landscape plan. In this case, we agreed with the owners that we'd just design it as we went, kind of pick some plants that would work and then figure out how best to place them. We're going to move this spirea over here into this corner, so we'll have a grouping of 3. And then we've got 3 autumn ferns and 3 Xanadu philodendron. We're good there. With the look of this garden, we don't want to plant things that need pruning. They might need pruning just to control them over time, but for the most part, we want them to be able to achieve their natural form. I'm going to use these ginger lilies. These are variegated ginger lilies as a background plant. And again, just because of the informal nature of it, we're not going to put things in straight lines. We're going to kind of vary them in odd numbers. You can see this is a nice contrast in color with the variegated ginger. And then in front of the ginger, we'll use lower things that will fill in over time. So I think I will use the rest of these ferns. I've got both autumn ferns and this interesting silver lady, which is a neat looking fern. Well, aesthetically, a lot of that is personal preference. In this case, you know, you do think of color combinations and stuff. In this case, we have mostly green plants, and there tends to be more foliage plants that grow in shade. We've got blue hydrangeas and pink dogwood. And those probably will be blooming about the same time, and those colors go together well. So you can think about the color combinations, but most of our plants are foliage plants. And so then you just want to think of, you know, if all your foliage plants were this shade of green, it's kind of boring. But if you work in foliage plants that have different colors of leaves, then you start to get something a little more interesting. Aesthetically, you need to think about the heights and the sizes of everything, and then the colors, and then the textures, and maybe get some combinations of things that are interesting visually, not all the same shade of green. Then I'm going to do 3 hydrangeas and fill up this space for a little color. The other thing is, we're not going to do a real dense planting. We'd like to do a planting that allows everything to grow and still have some space in between the plants, but not a lot of space, and not much space on the background plantings because we want to screen that fence. So those will grow more together. Then I've got these big Japanese Aralia, and these are just the plain green. I only could find 2, but I've got a couple of the spider web ones that have the variegation that's kind of neat. We'll do these as a background, these Japanese Aralia. I see a loquat back here that's struggling to get light. That's probably not going to do much, just because it gets too much shade. And then I'll use these here as a screen to hide the filter equipment, and to help with this screen of the road, we'll get a double screen here. I want to put these kind of silvery, these variegated Japanese Aralia in an area where they'll really be noticeable. So we'll put them close to the edge of the pool. And one of the important things we're going to do is infuse this soil with life. We're going to use all kinds of blend and some penetrate liquid biotiller, which it's not really that hard, but penetrate does more than just penetrate. It also is a great way to add all kinds of enzymes and minerals that soil needs and can use for more life to develop. These 1 gallon carricks, I think I'll use just here and there to fill in places that need just a little bit more. Finished with these ginger lily. So it's kind of a, fairly simple plant palette. Ginger lily, philodendron, ferns, worked in informal groupings. And we hope that the ones near the fence grow taller. So that's about how I would place them. They want this to be a lush green area, easy to maintain. And so we put in an irrigation system that the dogs can't damage. In another part of the garden, they have drip system, and they have a lot of problems with the dogs chewing it up and tearing it up. We just used a very simple system here with a lot of spray heads. Some people in shrub areas like to use real tall pop-ups, but I found no matter how tall the pop-up, if the plant grows taller than the height of that pop-up, you're going to have blockage. So I kind of came up with a concept that we try to spray under the plants and around, and have water coming from all directions. So we've just used 4-inch pop-ups, and we made them so they have proper pressure, and so there's water coming from all directions. And then we're going to put in lights here once we're done with the planting, so we know what to light up. And that we just ran wire and put a loop of wire, and then we're going to use low voltage LED lights, and we'll light up these trees and put a lot of light around the pool. Now we plant these plants we just placed, and my guys Felipe and Roberto are getting started on it. They're going to plant everything. As soon as they're done planting, we'll do kind of a finish grade and use our blend. Probably on the very last thing, when we're almost done, we'll use the penetrate liquid biotiller. I don't like people to stomp over it after it's been applied, because it is live beneficial bacteria. Then we're going to put in the lights, we'll put in the mulch, and we'll clean everything up, maybe a little bit more finish pruning, and we'll show it to you. If you're interested in garden renovations, we have a lot of them on our channel. Check those out. They all involve improving the soil, which we think is the most important part.